Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and happy Father's Day to all the fathers yesterday and all those that maybe we have lost, but we still have them in our hearts and our minds. So let's remember to celebrate all fathers and all mothers and all parents, guardians, and people that have been there for us throughout our lives and continue to do so. And let's remember to take care of those that we love. Today I would like to talk about people who are reactionary, those reactors. People that tend to say things in the heat of the moment. And I wonder if you are a heated person, a reactor, a person that reacts to things without stopping and pausing. Are you that person? I talk about when I deal with anger, frustration, resentment, when I talk about people who find that they go from the simmering to the boiling point. I talk about giving pause for thought. I often hear people say, well, that's easier said than done. People often say to me, I've gone from simmering to boiling before I even know. But the reality is that we know more because we appreciate and understand that within us, psychologically, that it's brewing. It's like a nice cup of tea. If we get the temperature right, because I like my cuppas, I also like my coffee, but I like having a nice cup of tea. And if you get it brewed just right, without making the temperature too hot, you have that aha moment, that's a lovely brew. But if you're in a situation where things boil over, it doesn't taste nice, your tea. You're like, Catherine, why are you going into cups of tea here? What's the significance? Well, let's come back to that in a moment. So you're listening to Catherine Gallagher, and this is CMG Talk. And we're talking about reactors. We're talking about people that are reactionary. Those people that find it hard to be in control, to manage and monitor and regulate their emotions. We know that the levels that we go from are being mildly irritated, to feeling slightly perturbed, to then beginning to feel the temperature beginning to bubble. The frustration, the tension and the pressure is there. To then it begins to simmer. The bubbles begin to appear. Suddenly we feel the tension is beginning to become unbearable. We go from frustration to pressure and the anxiety, and then we start feeling the anger begins to surface. Angry, resentful, hurt. Things like feeling injustice, not listened to, not heard, frustrated, ignored, betrayed. We label our anger. It's unfair. You're not listening to me. How could you do this to me? Why is this happening? What's this about? Why me? Anger starts to then become all-consuming. We're stuck in this anger. It's the anger that we feel such overwhelming sense of pain, hurt, physical, emotional, psychological. Sometimes people say, I feel like I want to lash out. Indeed, they might hit out. They might throw things. Of course, it's never acceptable. Ever. There is never any justification to throw something, to throw something at someone, to hit something, and certainly not to hit someone. That's called assault. And when it tops over from anger to indifference, rage, indifference, that's where you don't care about the consequences. If you think about anger, sometimes people say to me, I'm so angry. I'm so angry. I'm not allowing this to happen anymore. I'm going to take action here. I'm going to write that letter. I'm going to speak up. I'm going to march. I'm going to do something constructive. I'm going to take back control. Anger has its place. Anger can serve us well when it's constructively used. Anger is part of a process of loss and grief. Where anger doesn't serve us is where we're stuck with it and we fester with anger, and then we end up turning it internally. And then, what if anger then starts hurting ourselves? We start harming ourselves with anger. High blood pressure, stroke. What if we end up becoming so unwell we end up having heart failure, kidney failure? What if it becomes so toxic that we end up getting in the car drunk? What if we end up doing something so unforgivable, so inexcusable? What if we end up doing something to hurt or harm someone else because of our rage and our anger? Some things we can't take back. Some things we can't hit the pause button on. When we get past the sense of, I need to hit the pause button. I need to take a breath. I need to get back in control. When rage takes over, indifference takes control, we then do things that we can't take back. The heavy hand, doing something that really we know we end up living to regret. Sometimes we don't end up living to regret because sometimes we've done something that actually we can't come back from. And most of us will have heard of, somehow, somewhere, that story. We might hear the backstory. We might have been part of that. We might have some empathy or compassion in some way for what happened to someone, but we might also say that it wasn't okay. We might also know someone that's been in the receiving end of someone's rage, their outburst. I consistently say to clients, we don't listen to angry people. We forget the reason why someone's angry. All we see is the anger. We don't see why. It's hard to be compassionate and empathic when someone has this forceful, powerful force of emotion coming at you. You retreat. You defend. You protect yourself from that anger. We know when we feel a particular sense of frustration. We know when it's building up, and we have a duty, a responsibility to do something about it. Unless we manage our emotions, learn how to regulate our emotions, and constructively learn how to channel those feelings, those emotions, constructively, appropriately so, we can end up hurting ourselves, harming ourselves, psychologically, sometimes even physically. But we can also end up harming psychologically, emotionally and physically, not just ourselves, but other people too. Sometimes these things, irretrievably, we can't take them back. Anger can be helpful, but anger also can be destructive, harmful. So what do we do with anger? How do we learn to hit that pause button? How do we learn to process our feelings? Are you journaling? Are you learning breathing techniques? Are you working through those unhelpful thinking processes that you have? Are you showing yourself compassion and empathy? Are you working on challenging those unhelpful thought processes? Are you gaining a perspective by perspective taking? What are you doing to manage those feelings and emotions? Do you choose to focus on gratitudes and look at the things that you have rather than the things that you don't? Do you stop asking why? Why me? And do you understand this is it? This is what's happened, and I need to learn to deal with it. I don't have to say it's okay. Acceptance, accepting this is it, isn't saying it's okay. It's saying this is it. This is what I'm dealing with. Coming to terms with something is important. Being a victim of a situation, feeling helpless in victimization doesn't help anything, doesn't make things constructive, doesn't help you to deal with things, take charge, take control. No one wants to feel powerless. Empowering yourself is important. But it's also important to show kindness, care, compassion, and empathy with yourself. And letting yourself know emotions, feelings pass. The anger, the pain, the hurt will pass. Patience, time. That's what we need to have. So the tools are so important to use. And when people say to me, it's the effort, it's having to do them all the time, but that's what works. When you self-invest, when you appreciate and value you and recognise that you need to see yourself as being important. It's important to invest in yourself. It's important to invest in tools, to do them as daily tools, just as you brush your teeth, wash your hair, just as you wash yourself. You do these tools. They become second nature. They become just what you do. Suddenly you find that your emotions start to normalise. They start to level out. You start to realise that you're starting to feel you have a perspective, a differing perspective on things. We need to see the wood for the trees. We need to see a way forward. We need to start seeing other things. We need to understand that this does not define us. What happens has not defined us. We need to see there's more to us than what this is. If we're stuck with anger, we hold ourselves back for moving forward, becoming the best version of ourselves, growing and becoming who we're meant to be. Reactionary people often will say, I'm passionate, it's how I express myself. No one wants to be around somebody that's angry, when the anger induces fear. Because that kind of anger is about being overpowering. It's about control. It's about me, my needs, what I have to say, what I want matters more than you. You diminish other people. You overrule other people's needs, other people's thoughts, other people's cares. And that's being selfish, not self-full. Finding the balance is what we need. And finding those needs, finding that balance helps us to become a mature and helps us to grow into not just the mature, but also the best version of ourselves. Understanding that anger is a human emotion, but understanding that we can't get stuck with anger and being reactionary, a reactor, isn't always the best response. It can be a human response, but being stuck with anger is never healthy. Thanks for listening. Until next time. And I look forward to our next talk. Remember, you can come in, you can talk to me, and you can also ask to have a conversation with me on this podcast too. This is Kathleen Gallagher, and this is CMG Talk. Until next time.